Hello, R1 here. Regardless of whether they are real or virtual, every battle has many stories to tell. Some are epic, some are tragic. But this tale is about a pilot known as Draken1187, flying a German Bf-110 in a War Thunder realistic event entitled Africa, Allied Invasion. This series of events were held a while back, featuring realistic battles on smaller arcade maps, which made for some very fast-paced action. The Bf-110 Heavy Fighter is a Tier 1 aircraft at a battle ranking of 2.3, but since this is more or less a historical event, traditional matchmaking goes out the window. As a result, Draken will find himself pitted against much more advanced aircraft. In fact, every enemy fighter he will face is Tier 3, from battle ranking 4.3 to 5.3. Another pilot on Draken's team is an important part of this story as well, a Bf-109 pilot that has the unfortunate and somewhat prophetic call sign of Bad Aimer. Bad Aimer is going to demonstrate that with enough motivation, determination, and support, even a pilot that finds himself outclassed can wind up making a valuable contribution to a match. Initially, this battle doesn't look like it's going to turn out very well for Draken. Almost immediately, he takes a critical hit that puts a huge hole in his left wing and seriously damages his left engine. But he manages to pull out of his dive and regains control of the damaged aircraft. Now, while the more advanced enemy Spitfires focus on what they consider to be threats more dangerous than a poor, crippled, low-tier heavy fighter, Draken can put his own 20mm cannons and quad machine guns to good use. One Spitfire down. He manages to critical 13th, who is actually flying a Tier 4 Spitfire. But the final kill will end up going to another pilot. Had Draken been able to finish him, he would have had a Beowulf medal. As it is, he'll have to settle for a mere Hercules medal, bestowed for killing at least one opponent 2 tiers higher than yourself. Draken's head-on attack was successful, but it cost him heavily. He's now got a hole in the other wing, and his aircraft is in very bad condition. Still, it's unfortunate that you can only win 1 Hercules medal per match. Otherwise, right now, Draken would be sitting on 2. While Draken nurses his wounded aircraft back towards his friendly landing strip, his teammate Bad Aimer manages to take down an enemy Spitfire of his own. He's also near the landing strip, which turns out to be a fortunate turn of events. You see, Draken sees one of his teammates being hard-pressed by 2 enemy Spitfires. Despite his damaged state, he immediately moves to assist. He's too late to save his beleaguered comrade, but he does manage to extract a measure of revenge by taking down yet another higher-tier Spitfire. Unfortunately, the surviving Spitfire is the best pilot on the enemy team, call sign Nalu, and he immediately begins to maneuver into an attack vector on Draken's failing 110. With his damaged left engine dying a smoky death, there isn't anything Draken can do about it. But fortunately for him, Bad Aimer arrives in time to dive on Nalu, distracting him from Draken completely. Thanks to Bad Aimer's intervention, Draken will make it back for a safe landing. But although Bad Aimer doesn't realize it yet, he's in over his head. Bad Aimer reacts correctly and doesn't sacrifice his altitude advantage when he sees Nalu move to counter his attack. But he's only going to get one shot at this, and he misses. Nalu is not going to give him any further opportunities for the rest of this match. Every defensive maneuver Bad Aimer attempts is expertly countered by Nalu, and as quickly as that, the tables are turned. Finally, Bad Aimer has no choice but to dive out and try and make a run for it. He heads for the coast, low and fast. Meanwhile, Draken has not been idle. He's now repaired and rearmed, and quickly gets his BF-110 back in the air. He's been watching the fight progress and immediately turns, setting his course for the coast to assist Bad Aimer. Bad Aimer is still running, just as fast and as low as he can. His BF-109 is fast, but burdened with his gun pods, he's not able to pull away from Nalu, who is maintaining his altitude and speed, just waiting for Bad Aimer to make a mistake. To make matters worse, Bad Aimer has cornered himself. He's rapidly running out of map, and will soon have to make a choice. Either he turns to face Nalu now, or he takes his chances by running off the edge of the map to reappear much closer to Nalu's current position. He chooses to go off the map, and when he reappears, he attempts to gain the upper hand on his opponent, but Nalu knew exactly what he was doing when he positioned himself as he did. Almost immediately, he's on the attack, and Bad Aimer is once again forced to flee toward the edge of the map. Fortunately for Bad Aimer, Draken is back on the scene. He's going to quickly assess the situation, and he sees his teammate running for the edge of the map, hotly pursued by Nalu. Draken will maintain his speed and altitude and look for an opportunity. Nalu is so confident that he pops victory smoke as both of them head for the edge of the map. This time, Nalu will pursue him. He's right on Bad Aimer's tail. But this time it's Draken's turn to prove that he knows how to position himself in a situation like this. Nalu is focused on Bad Aimer and doesn't even notice Draken at first, until Draken goes right over his cockpit canopy. Nalu's now aware that he has company up here, and Draken is maneuvering hard for a firing vector on him. Nalu breaks away and starts to pursue Bad Aimer toward the edge of the map one more time. Draken swings it around behind him and starts to climb, immediately bringing his nose up. He anticipates Nalu's next move. He figured Nalu would decide to come back and finish him off first. But he's ready for Nalu and manages to blow his elevator off with one well-timed burst. Now it's Nalu's turn to run, with Draken in pursuit. Nalu's ability to maneuver is sharply reduced, and Draken has him exactly where he wants him. For Nalu, this fight's over, but he doesn't go down easy. Draken ends up having to tear off the rest of Nalu's elevators and rudder before he finally sets him on fire and puts him out of the match. That victory roll was well deserved, and Draken sets his course back to the airstrip. He's running a bit low on ammunition. Bad Aimer has managed to catch back up with him, and he knows full well that Draken saved his life. Perhaps he's a little overeager to repay that debt, because as they close on their landing strip, they notice a hostile A-20G bomber heading directly toward them. Bad Aimer immediately moves into a head-on position, which is It's a bad idea against an A-20, especially if you don't have any kind of an altitude advantage, and he is criticaled almost immediately while doing very little damage in return. He's having difficulty controlling his aircraft, and Draken immediately whips his Bf-110 around to support his damaged comrade. A-20s can be a difficult target to take down for any fighter, but this is exactly what the Bf-110 was built for. Draken can take some hits from those tail gunners if he has to. Bad aimer probably can't. Although he does try to contribute to taking down the A-20, it's Draken that moves into the forefront and finally brings the bomber down. Considering the state of Bad Aimer's airplane, it's quite possible that Draken saved his life yet again. Bad Aimer is barely able to keep his Bf-109 in the air, and he's smoking badly. It's somewhat debatable whether or not he's even going to be able to make it back to the landing strip, but he gives it his best shot. Draken will continue to stick with him in close escort. There's still another Spitfire out there and another A-20, both of which can be very dangerous. The A-20 in particular would dearly love to catch Bad Aimer or Draken on the landing strip and bomb them out of this match. An A-20 is fast enough and tough enough to excel at that sort of work. Draken is at 5 kills now, each one of them 2 tiers more advanced than his own aircraft. Each one of them would have been sufficient to have won him that Hercules medal, if that were allowed. His work in this match is almost done, but he has one more task to perform. Although his guns are now almost completely dry, he stays on station above Bad Aimer's 109, so as to secure him the best chance of being able to land his crippled aircraft successfully. Bad Aimer finishes his repairs and begins to accelerate down the runway. From high overhead, Draken will immediately move to take his turn to rearm. They both know that they are probably running out of time. If the remaining enemy pilots are at least moderately competent, they will come looking for them here, sooner or later. As they pass each other in the approach to the strip, Bad Aimer pulls his fighter up and into a defensive position between Draken and the likely location of the enemy aircraft. He gains altitude swiftly. I think Bad Aimer knew that he owed Draken big time and was determined to repay that debt. He will very quickly get that opportunity. It's not long before Bad Aimer spots the first inbound threat. It's the A-20, heading directly toward Draken, still sitting helpless on the landing strip. Without hesitation, Bad Aimer puts himself between the A-20 and his teammate, determined to intercept the bomber and bring him down before he can reach the strip. It means another head-on pass, which didn't turn out too well for him last time, but it's the only way to ensure that the bomber goes down before he can drop his payload. It's a perfect pass. Bad Aimer has finally broken his streak of bad luck this match and repaid his debt to Draken, buying him enough time to begin takeoff. But it's not over yet. the last Spitfire has finally stopped strafing ground targets long enough to realize that what he had thought would be an easy victory has somehow turned into his being the last surviving member of his team. Give him credit, he engages bravely. But Bad Aimer now has his mojo back. To put it bluntly, against these two, he never stood a chance. Draken has pulled off an amazing string of victories over superior opponents, and repeatedly pulled his higher-tiered teammate out of one bad situation after another. And Bad Aimer did an outstanding job of repaying his debt and coming through for his team in the end. They both deserve this victory. All in all, this match was truly a labor worthy of Hercules, and Draken deserves every medal that he should have gotten for it. Perhaps one day he'll be allowed to take home more than one. I'd like to thank Draken for turning in this replay, and if you enjoyed it, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you so desire. For you see, every battle has many stories to tell, and this was just one of them. Well, whatever you decide. Until I see you again, good hunting.